Hello. Hello, YouTube. These are mostly for you. Tonight, you're going to get to see me captured live here during the O show. Agents are going to burst in right there and capture me for these secrets I'm about to reveal to you. Where do I want to begin with the grand conspiracy? Let's talk about the great chessboard analogy. If you've never heard of this analogy, the great chessboard is a geopolitical metaphor for the game being played out on the worldwide stage. It was especially utilized during, for instance, the Cold War with Russia to describe different strategic moves by the Soviets and the USA and what have you. But it's a good analogy to talk about this grand conspiracy that you've heard about for years from people, Alex Jones, the Zeitgeist documentaries, billions and billions of fucking documentaries, honestly. And I say billions, and I bet I'm not even exaggerating. If you pull up YouTube, which is where you're probably watching this. The reason the chessboard is a good analogy is on the chessboard, you first have some occult symbolism, which is the checkerboard itself. By that I mean a mixed up, highly polarized state. So just keep that in mind. The checkerboard itself is an analogy for the mixed up, highly polarized state. On the chessboard are pawns, of course, more than them of anyone else, and then various incarnations of the elite, be it a knight, a bishop, a queen, a king. You get the picture. Now, when I'm competing in a chess match, are my pieces at risk? Absolutely. Am I? No. Is my opponent? No. So the occult symbology of that checkerboard pattern is indicative of the unenlightened state. For instance, if you look at Masonic occult symbology, and I could pull this up, but that kind of diverges into analyzing it. So just look it up yourself. But the checkerboard at the bottom of the Temple of Solomon is the state of the peasantry, the unenlightened state. It's a good term to use. Or unilluminated, since people like to be obsessed with the Illuminati, right? So what is then illuminated? Well, that's to be raised up out of that highly polarized, mix-up state. Lots of symbology of that, like the two pillars and Masonic again, but it's all over the place. And this is important about the grand conspiracy because it informs you into the mindset, the basic mindset of an occultist. And by that I mean that there exists an unenlightened state, an unilluminated state, and that state is highly polarized, mixed up, and you can ascend past that to become illuminated. With me so far? So in that chess analogy, all of the gameplay on the grand chessboard, this Earth, takes place on that unenlightened plane. You may have pawns, kings, queens, whatever, but they're all equal on that plane, and you, as the player of the game, are obviously above it. So, who are the players of the game then? This is what you're going to hear described as the elites, the secret societies, the Illuminati, which is just one of many secret societies. You've got Bohemian Grove, you've got Bilderberg, you've got the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, you've got, which are, again, some of these are public entities, but a secret society sometimes has a public face, like the Masons, or even something like the Trilateral Commission, or there's actual secret societies like Skull and Bones, or the fucking Ku Klux Klan. Secret societies are prevalent throughout, obviously not just Western culture. You got the Black Hand. Arguably the start of World War One, right? So I would say that in this grand conspiracy, the secret societies are the players of the game in the grand chessboard. Politicians, military, corporate, religion, the working class. These are all the pieces that exist in the unilluminated, checkerboard, mixed up, polarized plane, which are used to play the game of Earth by the players, which, let's say they're the secret societies that everyone goes on about, the Illuminati, just like we talked about. I'm gonna do a little off-camera work here. I want to work in the next topic, which is going to be the occult itself. And it's going to be pretty brief, but it's the next little piece here. So far, the pieces we have are the folks, including politicians, etc. We got the symbology of the unenlightened state. We've got the quote-unquote enlightened state. And then we've got, well, who are these quote-unquote enlightened state players of this grand chessboard? I said, well, let's call those the secret societies of the world. But next we'll talk about the occult puzzle piece. And this topic actually makes me want to make a deeper video similarly about the occult, but been really chill and enjoyable to do the live IRLs about esoteric topics and then post them over on YouTube because we have such a good time talking about it here on the Infinite Couch. But then they blow up way more than the other shit I post on YouTube, so obviously folks are enjoying them. So I want to keep them coming. So if you're watching this in the future, I hope you're enjoying it. My Twitch and my YouTube are about the same size, which is small. That's the size they are. But they're not atomic. That's good. I can answer that one real quick, Globe. What do I think about the Freemasons? definitely a good example of a secret and not so secret society. What I think about them, I think there's great Masons, and I think there are terrible Masons. But I like especially the historic Masonic tradition. We're talking like 1600s, quite a bit. Definitely the original, what you would call trolls, and definitely the original kind of like trolls with, I guess I would call it, good intent. Kind of like, honestly, the 1600 Masons remind me a lot of the pre-getting co-opted Anonymous. But that's neither here nor there. So, let's talk about the occult a little bit as it ties into the grand conspiracy. The elite love the occult. Everybody should love the occult. Why? Well, that's one reason. Material science describes the universe that we experience. The occult describes why the universe we experience, why it is how it is, why gravity, why background electromagnetic radiation, why. The occult, if you have a clear enough understanding, and that clear word is important because the occult is so intentionally obfuscated that clear, when I say clear, that's what I mean, clear, then you see the why, and you see kind of what the occult's about. But that's only like one aspect of the occult. A lot of people would call that natural science or natural philosophy. But the fact that the occult is based around the why of things is important because we go back, we've got the unilluminated populace duking it out on the chessboard. We got the enlightened ones, the illuminated hovering above it, playing the chess game to see who wins the ultimate battle. Well, why not take everybody off the chessboard? Why not have everybody be playing the game? And moreover, why not actively help people become illuminated? And what even is illuminated? A great depiction of what I would say is illuminated is, again, I could pull it up, but you should just look it up. Just look up serpent and man statue. And the reason I say that is I can't remember off top the actual name of the statue, and by doing that you'll do what I initially did and get a lot of different interpretations of it, which is even better. But it's essentially a dude with a serpent, and he's holding it at arm's length, often looking into its face. I've seen some where he's bashing it with a hammer, but this serpent, this thing that you take control of to become illuminated, is essentially your ego or your mind. Now I say you gotta take control of your own mind. That sounds a little absurd, but it's absolutely the truth. What being illuminated is taking control of your own mind. There's a huge debate, free will and determinism. It's both. Before you take control, it's determinism. After you take control, you have free will. And it's a spectrum, so it's not an on or off switch. But without getting too deep into that, that is the difference. Having the understanding of the occult principles, and you don't, yeah, you could teach it to a child. And I made a video about the Hermetic principles. That's one aspect of it. Those are just really useful to give you kind of like a almost a scientific terminology. And then from there, it's simple. There's a voice in your head. That's not you. You've believed it's you until I just told you that. Once I told you that, you immediately realized I was right. There's a sub you below the voice. That's you. If you tune in with that, you have free will, even though it doesn't feel like you have control. If you tune in with the ego, the voice, you live deterministically, but you think you don't. That's why Taoism is so steeped in contradictions. If you're listening to the voice in your head, it's controlling you. If you go beneath that, you kind of go with the flow and almost feel like you are living deterministically. But the trick is you're not. You're just, your true self is controlling you. That's illuminated. Boom. Now, why would that be important? Well, if you have kind of an occult understanding, there's a concept called the monad. I'm gonna give you the modern term, a meme. It's a unit of info. So something jumped into your head when I said a meme, but your DNA is a meme. The Osho itself, and by that I mean like the tone, the type of shit we talk about, the games I play, the imagery I use, all that combined together is a meme. But this logo right here is a meme by itself, but it's a sub meme. It's or a monad. So a meme is made of memes. There are multiple references in each meme, meaning that it's tied into the larger web of info. It's just that we have the technology now to just make these almost magical little moments, memes, whereas with no one used that word until that particular incarnation, but it's actually, there's been an ancient word for a long time, and that's monad, but it's the same thing. The reason I bring it up is it's why would you want to become illuminated? Well, reality is way more complex than we could ever perceive. We have very limited apparatus to even understand our existence. We are techno monkeys, literally. So, we can't do much. We can't glimpse much. But taking control of that snake, becoming illuminated, is the step toward that. And you have to zoom out to understand that. I said that a meme is composed of lesser memes. Well, I'm a meme. And I'm a meme that has taken billions of years of procreation to get here. So each forebear behind me is part of this meme that you're looking at right now. And all of those memes are connected. So imagine a hand, each finger goes into the glove independently, but it's connected to the hand. There's something above me that is me, that I am too dumb to perceive. I can only see the shadow of it. I can only glimpse it. But it's up to something I couldn't even comprehend. So that's a monad. The fact that even yourself is part of a larger entity that's existing in time. You just can't see it. So all the forebears, everything they did is all just part of one movement through time that is ongoing right now. That you can barely conceive of the corner of it. That's very powerful. And that's a minor monad. Any monad of sufficient complexity has what we would call sentience, right? So that thing that's all of you through time, that thing is thinking and doing stuff. And it's thinking on a level we can't even like consider, right? And pull back again. The whole human species is up to something. So that is a monad itself, that entity, right? The earth itself, all the different life on it, single cellular up, is up to something. And that, the occult is tapping into that. What illumination does for you is it allows you, kind of like I mentioned, when you grab that snake of ego, you become illuminated. Instead of listening to the voice in your head, there's the sub you that's not the voice in your head, that's really you. That thing is that entity I described, and that thing knows what is up. You don't know shit. Your little monkey brain. It'd be like if your finger was trying to tell you what to do. It'd be like if you were sitting and you were looking at your finger, and your finger was like, "We're gonna do this, motherfucker," and you're like, "All right." That wouldn't happen, right? So that's the why of becoming illuminated. Now, if you just joined in, let me give you the brief rundown. We're talking about the grand conspiracy tonight. I'm about to get captured by the government. The first thing we talked about was the metaphor of the chessboard, how there's the highly polarized black and white unenlightened state, and you've got your pawns and even your bishops and your kings on it, and the players are the elite. And then who are the players then? Well, these are all these secret societies you hear about, Skull and Bones, whatever. And then the secret societies are all into the occult. What's the point of the occult? Well, to transcend that highly polarized, unenlightened state to the illuminated state that we were just talking about. Well, what the hell is that? That's where you take control of your ego, the voice in your head, realize that's not you, tune into the below, and the understanding of what are called monads or memes today, which are info units, and they have any monad of sufficient complexity has sentience that can be tapped into via what we call the occult. Okay, so then why not illuminate everybody? That one's pretty easy. If you want to rule, that knowledge I just described really puts you in a pretty solid position, as long as it's not commonly known or, more importantly, understood. If your average person doesn't even have the framework to think like that, even if you straight up told them like I just told you. Think about the level you have. Think about the edge you have on them. Think about how you could control them. Because how do you have to control an unilluminated person? You literally just have to analyze the chunk of meat in their head, aka psychology, psychiatry, military and medical and private research, and then you can control that person essentially however you want. But if that person is illuminated, psyops, for lack of a better term, have a drastically diminished, if any, effect. So that's a clear reason for this knowledge to have always been kept on the low, right? Well, how does all the fuck up shit that the elites seem to like to do tie into the grand conspiracy. And we're talking Pizzagate territory now. Let me bullshit with y'all a little bit. This is why I like to do it live. Was Teddy Roosevelt a Freemason? Honestly, don't know. Trump reminds me of Teddy Roosevelt, though. The ego, something you want to abandon. Try to encourage people to. Well, first, you can't abandon the ego. It's as much of a part of you as anything else. It's literally generated by your brain. But if you're familiar at all with the way that our ancestors behave, and by that I mean before we were even humans or even after we would be considered humans, pretty fucking savage. The animal that we descend from is very fucking savage and fucked up and brutal and fearful and just the way of that creature. And so that creature, developing like a brain is more of that. So the ego is that. Now, you can't hate it, and it's a part of you. But like an animal, it needs to be trained. Jiggly asks if I'm doing a meme right now. Technically, yeah. Artie asks, who's behind the secret societies? Government officials? We're gonna get into that momentarily, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. So, in talking about the fucked up things that the elites appear to like to do, and I'm talking about the Pizzagate style shit, or really the amount of insane shit that has been put out there is plentiful enough that I encourage you, if you want to know more about what kind of fucked up things do the elites supposedly do, just look into it. But when I say the Pizzagate type shit, fortunately that pretty much sums it up in modern parlance. So why do the elites do the Pizzagate type shit? We're gonna first hit up why they do it on an occult level, and then we're gonna hit up why the secret societies are into fucked up shit on a more practical level. Jiggly asks, is Hillary a cyborg lizard from another planet? I think the only one I could give her out of that was potentially cyborg. I think Hillary is probably a vampire, if she's anything weird. I'm gonna go with vampire. Daywalker, obviously. I'm actually kind of serious, though. There's a procedure where you can have blood from young people added to your body, and it, I don't know the details, but it's quite good for you. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of people with her. It wouldn't be too hard at all to set up a little blood drive, for the kids. And then Hillary's in the black van she goes around with, hooked up, getting infusion before the debate. All that conspiracy about her having like a earpiece and stuff. What, it was just a mobile blood system. You gotta watch me, Federal, because we're about to jump into the next part of the grand conspiracy. Why, on the occult level, are the secret society the players of the chess game, with our earlier analogy? Basically, Federal, yeah. Why be into the Pizzagate style shit on the occult level? Again, we're talking about belief, about sentience, about sufficiently complex monads being becoming sentient, that type of shit. Well, another part of the occult understanding is the fundamental nature of reality, which is illusory. And by that I mean the best analogy is dreamlike. Remember, monads of sufficient complexity are sentient. Well, there is one complex thing dreaming us. How do you know? How do you know it's a dream? It comes down to those occult principles that explain the why behind things. And in this case, the short version is, if reality were not a dream, it would not change. According to just simple fundamental principles, logically, if the environment is able to change, it has to be a dream. It comes down to the fact that time is a side effect of the illusory nature of reality, blah, blah, blah. But the simple version is belief matters. So why do the fucked up Pizzagate style shit? Children believe heavily. It's hard to mention that even without getting angry. But children believe. So if a child believes that you're some super evil, powerful thing, that's powerful. That's strong. Moreover, where even get the idea for the fucked up shit? The idea for the fucked up shit comes from this. Again, I'm going to try to keep it short and simple. There's a doctrine from the ancient mystery schools called Gnosticism. The short version is that what we believe to be the dreamer, the creator of the universe, is actually a bad guy. Lucifer is a good guy, and Lucifer actually is here to bring knowledge, understanding, and the true way, the true light, the morning star, right? And who's Lucifer? Well, that voice inside your head that we just talked about. The ego, all that. That's essentially Lucifer. And oh, does that mean I'm Satan possessed? No, it means that the most brutal chimpanzee rips something apart, scared of everything, the most like depraved animalistic thing is what is described as Lucifer, right? So you could see if someone was giving in to whatever the darkest part of them ever wanted in a misguided belief that this inversion of the world is actually good because again, this reality is a trap. It's a prison. It's a trick. You can see how that could drive you pretty far down the road to do some fucked up shit. Leave it at that. So that explains why I do the fucked up shit. The secret societies, whatever, on the occult level. Now let's talk about what Artie mentioned on the practical level. So if we've got the chessboard, and then we said the illuminated secret societies are the chess players, there's the people who set up the chess game in the first place. there's the people who even were like, why don't you guys sit down and play? Any hot takes on who that might be? Out of curiosity. Any ideas? I'm speaking specifically right now, by the way. Because a lot of the hubris of the secret societies we have comes from the fact that there was a time in our history when a lot of this New World Order shit was like 100. I mean, during the times of monarchy, certain people could just come and fuck your wife on your wedding night. It's called prima nocta. So there were times in our history, not too long ago, when these secret societies, the players of the chess game, honestly could really, essentially, do whatever they wanted, really. So who set up the chess game at all? With us on the board as pawns, with the people that we think rule us on the board as pawns, with the board itself being our unilluminated state where our ego controls us, that we're easily controlled because we're programmable. That if you're controlled by your ego, you're controlled by your programmable brain. Who set up the game for the secret societies to play? Sorry, I was doing a little bit of off-camera work there. So, in modern times, let me give you a really good analogy, actually. You've got we've got our chessboard analogy. You've got our players, the elites, the secret societies. So, one day, around World War I, World War II, a bunch of men in military uniforms and suits showed up to the existing chess game and said, we've got a much better chess game that you could play. And those men are the military industrial complex. So how is it then that the military industrial complex subverts this control from the existing secret societies coming from antiquity? And simply, I mean, imagine, especially back in like medieval times, if you understood how to control your ego, how much that would put you above the peasantry. So that control going away, how would that happen? Well, it comes down to that fucked up shit, that Pizzagate type shit. And what I mean is, what it seems like, especially what I would more accurately refer to as the military intelligence industrial complex, is through peace through superior data, evidence of all the fuckery is available. When we hear this, the deep state, that's the military intelligence industrial complex. And the way it keeps these secret societies in check is, look, you can play the game you have been playing, but if you don't play by our rules and on our board, we're going to release this evidence that will literally get you in jail or even a death sentence, depending on the degree, right? If your phone, if your fucking computer, if your microwave all record and have for much longer than Snowden revealed to us, what type of shit was already in the hopper that these secret societies, you know, members of which you could fish their password, like you could fish their password, like you watching this. Imagine what was already in the hopper. So it was an easy psyop to come in and say, well, you know, do you. From time to time, we're going to tell you how it is. And if you don't like that, just take a look at this video. So, what does that really mean? Well, it means that, first off, all of this Illuminati, demon this, alien that, yada yada, the Vatican has a reptile head in it. The Pope is a Satanist. The Illuminati have pop stars doing, you know, mind control on the youth. All this like shit is a combination of secret societies being fascinated with this weird occult shit for the reasons we described earlier. as well as military intelligence industrial complex psyops to keep it rolling, especially shit like aliens, etc. And it's a huge game, like we mentioned. It's a chess game of the pawns and even the the upper level pieces in their unilluminated, highly polarized. And that highly polarized, that just means highly emotional, very in your ego state where you're easily manipulated. Um, Meanwhile, the military industrial complex does its thing. That's essentially the grand conspiracy that you got to worry about. Now, what thing does the military industrial complex do? That's the tricky one. Um it's what is the military intelligence industrial complex up to? One thing it's up to is self perpetuation. It's a system that keeps itself in existence. Budget wise, location wise, rationale wise, etc. And just to make it clear, I don't know how I exactly feel about the military industrial complex. But one thing it does is perpetuate itself. Well, Artie, in this case, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the whole thing, whether it's private military, whether it's foreign intelligence, domestic intelligence, and of course that definition changes depending on where you're sitting. Um, the military intelligence industrial complex itself. I mean, Mossad could just as easily threaten a elite who's getting out of line as NSA, as the KGB, as you get it. Um, one goal is obviously it self perpetuates this system. I think another goal I would call normalization. And it stems from the theory that modernity is too complicated to accurately predict via any model. Meaning that we live in a complex enough reality now, the dream itself has become complex enough that you cannot really guess what is going to happen. There are too many factors. From that theory then stems, well, you have to normalize Earth, the geopolitical chessboard, like a business. You have to look at it like a financial transaction, and you have to normalize every risk you can. And normalization to the military industrial complex is being everywhere and anywhere and having such a technological advantage that it would be like primitive species attacking an alien race if an aggressor were really to engage, and I would say the US military industrial complex specifically. And the reason that you have to normalize is that the peasantry is always going to be in that highly polarized, ego-driven state, and not enough people will ever be illuminated that the planet will be a safer, more predictable place So the only thing you can really do to ensure the existence of the military-industrial complex is um, normalization, right? Y'all mentioned some Freemasons earlier. A good example is, uh, especially the OG Freemasons, believe that you should hide clues to that ascendant, that ability to take control of your ego, should hide clues to that everywhere in art, architecture, everywhere you can, so that all the peasants are getting specifically subconsciously beamed with, take control of your ego, arise to your higher self, just all the time. And so it gradually just makes society come up. That was the great work of the OG Masons. The Rosicrucians would be a good example. Is to saturate culture so thoroughly with the symbologies of taking control of your ego and rising that it gradually just brings up society. But it seems like the military industrial complex view of it is that the earth is so dangerous and unpredictable that normalization is the only option. So that's the fucking grand conspiracy, fucking nerds. Not anything you thought it was gonna be. It's not aliens, it's not demons from other planets or whatever. Now, is there crazy shit outside of our perception that we can't understand? For sure. Is there a lot of psyops out there? For sure. Is what is described as Lucifer anything more than just the darkest voice of your ego inside? Nah. But the grand conspiracy is really the existence of a military intelligence industrial complex normalizing the earth. Because they essentially don't know what else to do. I guess the final thought is, how do I feel about that? And I don't know. The world is pretty buck wild, especially if there's insane wild shit that I don't even know about, that I can't even maybe perceive, that maybe the military intelligence industrial complex knows about. So, I mean, if I really look inside, I don't know. I definitely I definitely think the negative aspects result from obviously the loss of life, especially if there's like needless war just to keep things going. It's kind of bad to have a falsely inflated economy since the 1940s. But I also accept the fact that modern reality, just what I know, is buck wild enough that I guess I'm glad that there is some kind of, and I'm talking specifically US, security presence out there. I think it's more important than people give it credit for, especially if you take into account shit that you couldn't even know about. But I think that the machine itself needs to be put into check. And I guess to go a little deeper on that, it seems like things related to that deep state, that military intelligence industrial complex, are happening right now. So many bizarre things related to Pizzagate still start going on. Especially with like Trump bringing up all this trafficking and stuff out of nowhere. Obviously, Flynn going isn't as conspiracy theory as people think. because that really seems like a personnel decision based on conduct. But the Russian shit, um, how you see the intelligence agencies duking it out almost with leak this. So I'll leak. Well, look, here's fucking Chuck Schumer eating a fucking bagel with Putin. What about that? So, you see it. You see it. And you see the elites who thought they were in charge. It's kind of like mommy and daddy are fighting now. They're like, oh man, like, what do we do? So times are pretty buck wild. Maybe I'm naive, but I think there are some positive aspects to what we're seeing with the military intelligence industrial complex. Maybe the level of access got to some people where they were like, "Oh man, like we got to do something." Who really knows? I try to be an optimist, but it even ties into modern times. You see it. It's like this. What was once quote unquote a secret war. We're seeing like they're behind the curtain, but they're getting so wild that they're like kicking their legs and arms out, and we're seeing the curtain flap around through the media. And we're like, what is going on back there? Don't steal my vest. But I think that's about it. I try to keep these about an hour or so. It's about an hour. Hello, YouTube viewers in the future as well, since these tend to do a lot better over there. But I usually just bullshit about what we just talked about a little bit here at the end, and then I'm gonna switch over to Conan. There's Kitty, yeah. That's my squasher. The media's role. You know, I should have mentioned that during my talk. I'm glad you brought it up, Artie. The vast majority of the media is an aspect of this military intelligence industrial complex via the CIA in the United States. To learn more about it, just look into Operation Mockingbird. Federal, I think religion is super important. We were talking earlier about how the Masons were trying to help the peasantry understand to take control of their ego and arise to their higher self. Religion is a great way, especially for lower IQ people, to understand those concepts, which are even hard for the smartest people to really grapple with. So I think religion is great. Now, religious institutions have not been classically very well behaved at all. But religion itself, I think it's an extremely useful tool. I mean, you say eliminate religion, what problems persist? Look at modern day American society, for instance. People have too low of an IQ to really grapple with the concept of spirituality in a way that would allow them to have virtue. So they do kind of need religion, but we've started to generate this, and through subversion with some other friendly neighbors, we've wound up with a essentially atheist society. And you see how well that's going. You see how happy that makes people. It's just that if your IQ is too low, it's hard to understand spirituality as the abstract concept that it is. But you can still get a glimpse of it through religious parables and things like that. That's what I'm saying. I think it's quite good. I also think on a metaphysical level, we were talking about that entity that is you across time, whatever you're up to, you could not even begin to understand. Um, in pagan traditions, the exercising of the different rituals is important because ideally your forebears did those same rituals, and it gives you, it's like the wall is thin there because you remember doing it as someone else, so you can remember your death. But that's more like a, I guess, uh, Norse thing. So even I, who I would consider myself mostly just like a philosophical person, like a Taoist, I still like pagan traditions, and that's where like my people come from, is originally Scandinavia. So I definitely feel like a kinship there. All right, is it Conan time? I think it's Conan time. All right, let me get everything